What if the most powerful clue to your healing during divorce isn't your ex's behavior, but it's your bank account? Today on Divorcing Strong, we're talking about why money isn't just math, it's a mirror. If you felt fear, shame, or total overwhelm every time that you look at finances, this episode will change how you see your numbers and yourself. Because when you learn how to read your money, what your money is really telling you, you don't just regain control, you reclaim your power. Welcome back. Welcome to Divorcing Strong, the podcast that pulls no punches when it comes to divorce. I'm Becky Sampson, better known as Bulldog Becky Brockovich, and I'm here to give you the straight talk, the strategies, and the subpoena secrets you won't hear anywhere else. With expert guests and proven advice, you'll learn your rights, your options, and gain your power that encourages a fair and equitable outcome. Divorce doesn't have to break you. It can build you. Let's get to it. All right, let's get to it. Hey, I'm Becky Sampson. I'm the host of Divorcing Strong podcast. I just want to make a quick announcement real quick. We have literally, finally, after 55 episodes, are live on all of the audio streams. So make sure you check us out on Apple, I think it's Apple Podcast and Spotify and all of that stuff. So we are definitely getting out there in the audio space. Of course, this is our video space. But we are very excited to be taking it to the next level and being able to reach more people with this podcast. I'm excited about this podcast because Chelsea, or our guest today, we met several months ago. I've been on her podcast. She's now coming on mine. She's in the financial space, but also has had experience with divorce. And I'm excited for you to hear her experience because it doesn't always have to be a fight. It can really turn out good in the end. And these are stories I love to showcase because I know it's possible. So, but while we get started, let me just tell you a little bit about her. So on today's episode of Divorcing Strong, I'm joined by Chelsea Williams. She's a financial expert, Forbes advisory board member, and founder of Core Solutions Group, Inc. There's a moment in divorce when you open a bank account and your chest tightens. It's not just about the numbers. It's about what they represent: fear, change, survival, and sometimes shame. Chelsea has built her career helping people sit in that moment and transform it. With nearly a decade of experience and hundreds of law firm owners guided from financial confusion to confidence, data-driven clarity, Chelsea teaches something that feels especially powerful for people navigating divorce. Money isn't just math, it's a mirror. When finances feel chaotic, it's often because something deeper is manifesting or misaligned. And when you learn how to read your money, what your money is telling you, you don't just grow profits, you gain power, clarity, and freedom. So through her firm, Core Solutions Group, she helps clients stop guessing, start measuring, and make decisions from strength instead of stress. If you're ready to shift from financial fear to financial authority, stay tuned. This conversation is going to change how you see your money. So welcome to the show, Chelsea.
Hey, hello, Becky. Oh my gosh, I got goosebumps like 3 times just listening to you. I'm excited for this episode. Thank you for having me.
I know, I love it. I love that all my guests are like, what? How did you come up with that? No, good old chatty, you know. It gives us a great intro. And I really am grateful. You do a lot of work with attorneys, which is really interesting. But your focus really is money. So let's kind of hear, before we really dive into that, why don't you give us a little background story of where you came from and what got you into this industry and what makes you passionate about what you do now?
Yeah. Thank you. You know, I'm just very much a normal person. I grew up very middle class. My parents got a divorce in 3rd grade, and that affected me tremendously. I have always been a daddy's girl at heart. I love my mother to death, and I am a daddy's girl. So, you know, that definitely had its impact on me as a child. And then growing up, you know, nobody ever taught me about money. And that's the story with so many people, and probably most of your listeners and you. nobody's teaching us about this money thing.
Mm-hmm.
My first money lesson actually came from a city bus driver when me and my friend were on our way to the mall. And it was the most bizarre interaction. I mean, at the time, her and I were like, what is happening? This guy is weird. I don't understand. But he had us take out a notebook and explain to us, you know, you girls are going to have to get a job soon. You're of that age. This is how much you're going to make. This is how much comes out in taxes. And he went through all the expenses, and we ended with like the most simplest budget ever. But that lesson stuck with me, and I was so grateful for it, because a lot of us don't have that lessons or those lessons, you know, and that was a fundamental enough lesson for me that as a money professional, I don't have the hero story of struggle with money and then figure it out. It kind of made sense to me, and I've never struggled with money. That doesn't mean I always had a lot, but I never struggled. And so growing up and realizing that most people really struggle with money, it became my mission. It became my calling. So I have a couple of businesses now, in addition to Core Solutions Group, where we work with attorneys and law firms specifically. I have Money Mastery that we're building, and that's my passion project. That's, you know, because when I work with individuals' own businesses, they're individuals first. And the way they manage and view and navigate money in their business is the way that they navigate money in their personal life. And so I kind of come in the business.
That's where that mirror is, right?
100%. Yeah.
Yeah, it's funny. You actually, that your story just reminded me of when I was living in Hawaii. My friend's daughter came to me, and she's very entrepreneur, like 10 years old, 10, maybe she's 12. Maybe she was 12, somewhere around there. And she was like doing all this stuff where she would like bake all these things, or she would do smoothies and stuff. And she would do it right outside of our front house, because I lived with them downstairs in their basement apartment. And I said to her one day, I'm like, do you know that, like, have you actually sat down and like decided how much your cost of goods is, and then how much you're making, and how much you have to pay back your parents? And her dad was just like grinning from ear to ear that I would be spending the time with her to do that, because she didn't think about that. And I said, no, your parents might buy that blender or that whatever, but you need to be able to pay them back, or you're renting it from them or whatever. And she's like, what? So we came up with this thing. And I mean, of course, every parent wants to teach their kids, but sometimes kids aren't open and receptive to the parents, where they're open and receptive to someone else. And that kind of reminded me. And of course, she's an entrepreneur through and through, but at least now she knows. And where are we really learning that in our society? Like, who teaches us? Now the school system teaches us about the basics of money.
No, you know, in my opinion, I have an accounting degree, and it didn't teach me finance well enough. And that says a lot.
Yes.
And so, you know, in my experience, there's two reasons why people can't seem to get a grip on money or face the money. And number one, you're absolutely right. Money is a mirror. It is true that saying, show me your bank account and your calendar, and I will tell you who you are and what your priorities are. It's so true. And so money is such a vulnerable topic. It's something that carries a lot of weight with it. And in a lot of cases, a lot of shame and guilt. So people avoid it because they know what they're going to see and they're not ready to face it. And they don't have a framework to apply to their money to get it under control, to manage it, because they don't know, they weren't taught. And so, I mean, that's what I do. And what I love to do is, you know, over my career of 17 plus years, slowly it's come together, and I've been able to create this framework. And I apply it to businesses, and it's something that is, because money is very universal. The same thing that works here. So we're developing that same framework and program for personal finance as well.
Yeah. And did you develop that as you were going through your divorce, or did it have anything to do with divorce? Have you always been in finances since you were young?
It's always been intriguing to me. I mean, it started with the bus driver, and, you know, I've been on my own since I was 18. And I've always been able to manage and make it. I got 20 at the age of pregnant at the age of 20. I worked 2 jobs and went through college at the same time. I didn't know what I wanted to be when I grew up. But when I went to college for healthcare administration, I took my accounting class, and going into it, not having a clue what accounting was, it became very clear very fast that my brain speaks accounting. So I went with it. And this has developed ever since then. It's been developing over time. And there were pieces of the puzzle that I would get and make sense, and I would test it and use it with clients. But now, 10 years later, it's come together as this complete framework. And my marriage and divorce is also not a story of money friction, money problems, money struggles. My ex-husband was actually incredibly open and receptive to allowing me to apply this framework to our personal finance. We combined everything in our case. And when we divorced, we were incredibly in agreement with finance and it was all very fair. We didn't have any ill will towards each other, and we were able to split everything up in agreement.
What do you think was the catalyst for that? I mean, like, what do you think? Why do you think you were able to be so agreeable?
When I hear that question, the first thing that comes to my mind is because I learned the price that you pay when you choose someone that is not willing to be agreeable with you. And my daughter is 18, my son is 8. My most recent marriage is where we had our son. My daughter's father is not my son's father. In that situation, I learned how to identify all the flags of a person. So I waited 10 years between my kids with a lot of intention, because I promised myself I would never do this again. I would never create this situation for myself or my future children. And so I was very intentional about choosing a person to the best of my ability, because look, people are good at deceiving too. And it's not always easy, right? So I think that I was very intentional about the person that I chose and the characteristics that I was looking for.
Yeah, it's funny because I usually would ask, like, what do you think caused the problem? But I wanted to kind of know, like, okay, so how did you navigate making it a good situation? But yeah, I think that is very important. And it is really important to also remember that sometimes there is deception. I think we make the best decision that we can with the information that we have. And there's a lot of, I always tell people, not ever going back and having shame about what happened. It's just like, what did you learn about yourself? What did you learn about them? How can you take that information and move forward with it and make the best decisions that you can moving forward? Because, we really don't, it is a relationship where we are not in control of what the other person does or says or feels.
And look, we don't get along all the time. We don't agree about everything. I think the key to us working together so well, and people think it's the weirdest thing. Like we still do family events together. He'll go to my family events when I don't even go. It's very cordial. And I think the key to that for us was we put the kids first, and we consider the kids. What is best for the kids? Without, because that's kind of a mirror in and of itself. If not what's best for the kids, then what are your motives? What are the residual feelings that you're holding on to? What is the unfinished business or work or situation? Like, where are you really coming from? And for us, the fact that we put ourselves to the side completely and always evaluated decisions and situations on what is best for the child. What does the child need to see, hear, or experience?
Yeah. And I very, very much appreciate that. And it's good to hear that there are people out there, because a lot of times in this Divorcing Strong podcast, we really talk a lot about, it can get quite hairy. We don't want that to happen. But it's nice to hear that it doesn't have to happen. It's a choice that two people make. So kind of back to what you do now with finances, like what are some of the things that you can suggest for someone that's going through a divorce? And especially if they haven't had, like, I just got off a call with someone that's going through a divorce, and she's terrified because she doesn't have the information that she needs, and she hasn't been the main one in the finances. What kind of things would you suggest for them?
Yeah, I think it's important to first of all say that you have to give yourself grace. If you find yourself in a situation where you feel like you're not prepared, or maybe you haven't been doing what you should have been doing, or you don't know what you probably should know, like, give yourself grace first and foremost, because it is really not your fault. We are not being taught, and in fact, as women, we're being taught some of the wrong things and
Mhm.
shown and guided towards some of the wrong things. I think the most impactful thing that you can do, whether you're sitting there listening to this and you're on the verge of divorce, or you're sitting here listening to this because you're going through divorce, get involved immediately.
Mm.
Statistics show time and time again that women exit divorces worse off than men. And that is
44% of them end up in financial poverty. That's absolutely crazy.
Yeah. Yeah. And so the first thing is empowerment.
Mm-hmm.
Empower yourself through education, because there's two reasons, right, why people avoid money. One of them is simply because they don't have the knowledge and the tools that they need. Money is 20% mechanics, 80% perspective, habits, mentality, money mindset. The
Mm-hmm.
20% mechanics is so simple, and it should be your first step. Managing money is incredibly simple. There's a lot of things and people out there that will make it seem like it's very complex and difficult, and you have to have a degree and you don't. Even the experts are students of the game of money, because it's always evolving and changing. So wherever you're at, get started now.
Yeah.
Involve yourself in the education, involve yourself with your own finances, ask questions to own your understanding.
So is it that they need to find somebody like as a professional that like yourself? So the money mastery, that is talk a little bit about that actually, because that's a course that you have, or is that a coaching? Yeah, talk about that.
Yeah, Money Mastery is my sister company, and we do a few things under that umbrella. But one thing that is in the works, so, sign up for our newsletter. We'll announce it when it's released. I'm creating a personal financial framework similar to what I do for businesses that help you. It gives you the exact thing to do to manage your money.
Mm-hmm.
Because that's step one. And the beauty of the framework is that once you install the framework, now you get to leverage your profit equation. And what I mean by that, it's something I teach. Everybody lives in the same exact equation. Everybody.
Mm-hmm.
Me, you, Warren Buffett, Elon Musk. It is the money we make minus the money we spend equals the money we keep to save and invest. The first thing we need to do is keep more of what we're already making. That's the framework, the controls that we put into place to make sure that we are not digging ourselves a hole, first and foremost. Then we start to work on, how do you make more? Because when people are in a financial crunch, what's the first thing they do? What's the first thing they look at? Let me go cut expenses.
Yeah. Yeah. Or what do I have to do without? Right.
That's what they sacrifice.
Yeah. What do I need to sacrifice?
Yeah.
Instead of let's go make more. Right.
The most powerful part of your profit equation is money you make. Because whether you believe it or not, there is money all around us. Money is easy to make. It is easy to attract. And it is the most powerful needle mover in everybody's equation.
So what would you say to a woman that is coming out of a marriage, maybe that hasn't been the one that's had to make money, but she's drowning because of attorney fees and all kinds of things, and they don't have an education? Like, what would you suggest?
I would suggest that you figure out what you love and can be passionate about intercepts with a need.
Mm-hmm.
And this can happen in many ways. It doesn't have to be that you create your own business. You can go find a position at, working a W-2 job that you really love and you make good money. And maybe that's even a stepping stone. But I'm a believer that in order to create wealth, you have to be passionate about what you're doing. We need that motivation.
Absolutely.
Right? A lot of us know that feeling of showing up to a job and you're just like dying inside every day, showing up to that job.
Well, and I think one of the things too that just came to my mind is that being busy in something other than the divorce might also help them to keep their mind off of everything that's going on and feel like you're still making a contribution to an organization or to a community of such because it does get really, really heavy sometimes. And especially if it's a contested divorce, it could take some time. And people are always like, well, this needs to be moved along. Well, of course it's going to be moved along. But meanwhile, let's make sure we get you on a sure foundation financially so that you're not in anxiety all the time, you know?
Yeah, yeah. And work on yourself. I mean, that's the key. If you feel like you don't know what to do or you've never done anything, start working on yourself. Figure out what your strengths and your weaknesses are. Face your weaknesses. Work on the skills that you know you're going to need to have to thrive and succeed, whatever that looks like for you. Communication, relationships, negotiation skills, especially for women, negotiation skills. A lot of our wage gap is because we aren't negotiating enough. So the types of skills that you need to be successful, regardless of what you do, you are your biggest investment and you are capable. And somewhere in you, there is a strength. There is something that you are so good at that somebody needs that it would be worth its weight in gold for them to pay you to deliver it.
I know. And I've always found it really interesting because I've always been an entrepreneur, but I find it interesting that people have been through some very, very difficult things in life or mastered something, but it becomes easy for them when I'm like, but other people would die to find out how you do that. You know what I mean? They would pay you to teach them on how to do whatever it is. And people don't realize that there's just so many resources out there nowadays, whether it's working for yourself or working for somebody else in that and developing those skills and going, oh, this comes easy for me, you know?
And the proof is everywhere. And we get what we focus on, right? So if you're sitting there listening to this and the voices in your head are voices of doubt and fear, that's because now you're going to go see all of the reasons why you can't do what Becky and I are talking about right now, as opposed to if you allow your mind to say, okay, I believe this is possible, and I'm going to go find examples of the fact that this is possible. Like, go look. You don't have to look very far to see women who have monetized a situation, a skill, a service, a community. I mean, there's so many ways. All you have to do is go find the proof. There's more proof that it will work for you than there is proof that it won't.
Yeah. And so when it comes to people's finances, when you're working with someone, do you work with mainly one-on-one? I know you work with a lot of attorneys and firms, but do you work with one-on-one clients as well?
Yes. So that's what we're building under the Money Mastery brand. But again, when I'm working with a law firm owner, I'm working with that person. I can almost assume what their personal financial situation looks like with a lot of accuracy just by working with them on their business finance. It's the same thing.
And so what drives your passion to being in this space? What's your why?
I think it's empowering. I think it can change the world. We have upon us the greatest wealth transfer that the world has ever seen. And over 50% of that wealth is scheduled to land in the hands of women. And so I especially love working with women because we have a very specific history that's working against us when it comes to money. We've only been able to create our own financial independence for 51 years.
What are you basing that on? What happened 51 years ago?
That is when women were allowed to get bank accounts, credit cards in our own name without a male cosigner.
Really?
Yes, I believe it was the Equal Credit Opportunity Act. But yes, 51 years is when we are truly able to legally have financial independence, right? That's not when all the opportunities opened up to us or anything else. That's just when we were legally able to have financial independence. So for this great wealth transfer to be coming right now at this time, what I would love my life's work to be, because this is measurable. We can measure this. That's one thing I love about numbers. They're so finite.
They're concrete.
Yeah. I would love to see women. I would love to see money become feminine, because money in the hands of women, it multiplies. It's like compounding interest. Women, and this is proven, when women control money, other people benefit.
That's a really interesting concept, because I talk a lot about the masculine and the feminine is all about creation. So, and it could be multiplication too, right? Creation, because we're multiplying. Like thinking, being a parent or a mother, right? We are the nurturers. We are the caretakers. So you're saying basically that when money comes into their possession, you've seen and experienced that we do nurture it and we do multiply it and we do, in general, I would say. I'm sure there's some people that blow it all over the place, but
Always.
but I think if we're in our true feminine energy, which is, I love this conversation because that is the most powerful place to be as a woman, is in our feminine energy, which is creation. Where the masculine's like, let's go out there and we're going to go get it. You know what I mean? We're going to go grab it. And I'm actually, I don't even think you know this, Chelsea, but I'm running a 12-week women's entrepreneurial group where it's all accountability. And we've had this conversation in our group, like masculine versus feminine energy, because our group is so structured. Sometimes the structure feels very masculine, right? Like, this is what I'm going to do and this is how I'm going to go create it. But I like that. I like that idea that the feminine, it is everywhere. It's an abundance. There's multiple opportunities for you to supply, and provide for yourself and for your kids and your family.
Yeah. And even there's a lot of corporate studies that have been done, and companies with women in leadership produce more profit, but money is only the outcome of what's actually happening in real life. What's happening is these women make great leaders. They create and cultivate such camaraderie and this environment and this motivation, and they have natural nurturing. And that didn't come easily. The women who had to tap that glass ceiling and shatter that glass ceiling. And this is a caution, right? This is a caution, especially for women coming out of a divorce. There's a lot of negative feelings and reasons to hold on to those negative feelings. The women that shattered these glass ceilings so that we could reside back into our feminine had to emulate the masculine. And I experienced this early on in my career. I'm in an industry that is still dominated by men, and most other industries are now dominated by women. This industry and the legal industry are still dominated by men.
Right.
In order for me to get to where I am at points in my career, I had to emulate the masculine in order to get respect and be heard. That bit me in the butt at a certain point, and I had to recognize that and realize that, because I no longer had to do it. And in fact, where I was at that point, it was ineffective. And so I had to rewire my brain to feel safe sitting in my feminine and embracing my feminine and leading with my feminine and out of that masculine, that I had to put that mask on. And so a lot of women had to do this before us. And so coming out of a divorce, especially, know that you have more power in your feminine, and holding on to that resentment and having feelings of get back at or anything like that is only going to hurt you. That's not where we thrive.
Yeah. So how did you literally, what are the things that you did to shift you from that masculine once you recognized, like, look, this is not working. You know what I mean? How did you make that shift? Was it just your self-talk, or what was it?
A lot of it was in my expectations and how I conducted myself. It was more of having compassion and making sure that I knew it was okay for me to have compassion. It wasn't unprofessional. So a lot of it was paying attention to my triggers, what would trigger me into my masculine, right? Because when we pay attention to our triggers, first of all, if we can identify it when it's happening, and if we do the work to untether that trigger to a core belief, and then we work to support that core belief and give ourselves reasons as to why that should be changed or should be something different, it's a process. I mean, it took me years fully. And I still, that doesn't mean that I'm obsolete from it now and I'm just walking around in my feminine. I still have moments where I'm like, woo, all right, let me drop back.
I know. I think anybody that's normal, I find, I love that you bring that up, because a trigger usually is something the trigger is coming because there's something underneath that we need to look at. Right. And for me, I I tend to be one of those people that I'm like, I'm going to fight. And then I have to relax from that and be like, okay, calm down. Like, what's true, what's not true, do the evaluation. But one thing that you said that was really important is to acknowledge what's going on at the moment, because if you don't acknowledge it and see it for what it is, then you can't do the deeper work in order to find out what's driving that to change it. And it is, I think you're actually right when it comes to, you're right about a lot of things, but it's numbers can be very masculine in the sense that it's very concrete, where women are very fluid. I always say, get into the flow and then flow. Like, I don't go where it doesn't flow. If it doesn't flow, I won't go. That's kind of my thing. But in our society, especially when you're going through a divorce and you're fighting for everything that's rightfully yours, it's easy to slip into that like fighting mode. And I say, change that from fighting to advocacy. You're advocating for yourself. That's very feminine. Fight is masculine. They go out, kill the animals, come back, bring back the food and all that kind of thing. But yeah, I think that what's one of the things that I know that you're not in the divorce space necessarily, but I'm sure just going through your own experience, what were some of the things that you wish you would have known going through a divorce that would have helped you, especially when it comes to your finances?
One of the things that my ex-husband did better than I did was in the retirement and investment space. He did a really good job of researching what the options are. Like, I know that you should be investing in things like stocks and, things like that, but that was never anything that really set me on fire. So I didn't really do it until we met. It was actually one of the things that he taught me and he got involved with before I did. And I actually, to this day, when I go to max out my investments, I'll be like, yo, what are we investing in? Like, I still go to him, And so what that translates to for me is, I wish that I would have been more involved in that sector. And I think how that can translate is in other areas is, I wish I would have been more involved in knowing what's going on.
Yeah.
Being aware of, okay, how much are the monthly fixed bills? How much do we have left over in spending? Where are we investing? So that when left to my own, I had all of these things in place. I had an idea. There weren't any really surprises. There was this awareness around how it works.
You're more empowered.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think it's interesting. I don't know if this is a real statistic or if this is just my observation. And you can correct me too if you've had experience this way too. But I find that if there's two partners, like a husband and a wife, that are equally involved, or there's full transparency within their finances, they're less likely to get divorced. I don't know if that's true or not, but that's just kind of like something I don't know. It's the ones that I'm thinking, the ones that are like, oh, my husband or my wife does all the finances and then they're left with nothing because they were blindsided.
I believe that. And I think Dave Ramsey probably has said that and spitting like facts and statistics around that quite a bit. I believe that. And here's why. Money is a mirror. It will show you everything. And in relationships, money mirrors the dynamic of the relationship. It mirrors control. It mirrors where the boundaries are with privacy and what I want you to know versus what I don't want you to know. There's a lot to really unpack from a relationship dynamic when speaking about finance. So it makes perfect sense to me. And I wouldn't doubt it at all if couples who are at least equally aware, because delegation is great, right? And being able to trust your partner with, all right, you manage the bills account. I'm going to manage the investments. I'm going to make sure the kids are taken care of. You make sure we're saving for vacation, like divide and conquer. Great, right? But
partnership. Yeah.
Yeah. And there's so many different ways that it could be done. There's no right or wrong way. I think it is absolutely a reflection of the relationship dynamic.
That's interesting. Very interesting perspective. I love it. So kind of as we finish up, how do people get a hold of you? And you said get on the newsletter that you're going to have, and talk a little about that.
Yeah. So moneymastery.work is the website where we're doing some really cool things with personal finance and some really cool things with women and finance specifically. Mm-hmm. So you go there and sign up for our newsletter. Every time we're releasing something new, it'll be through that newsletter. So that's how you stay in tune.
Awesome. Thank you so much for coming on, Chelsea. I know you do a lot of podcasting as well. So you're busy with attorneys.
No, I love it.
So here's my last question is, what does divorcing strong mean to you?
That's a good question. And it really makes you think. I think divorcing strong means that you come out confident and equipped, mutual respect. And you're ready to move forward without those strings really still being tethered. And that you are able to manage those without being on the same page, that you're able to stand in your truth confidently.
Oh, I love that. It is very true. I named this Divorcing Strong because I do believe that no matter who you are, you can, if you get the right team around you, you get the right information, you empower yourself, you really can come through it stronger, not bitter or weak, because divorce doesn't have to destroy you. And you're a great testament to that, right? Like, you're remarried, you're happy, you're still doing things. Actually, you're still involved because you have a child with your ex. And I love hearing that, or your former, I should say. I don't necessarily like to say ex, but the former, you've just created, it's just a different dynamic. So I appreciate that very, very much. And make sure, if you want to reach out to her, you've got all of her all of her contact information in the show notes. And thank you again, Chelsea, for coming on today. It was awesome.
Yeah, I love this conversation. Thanks for having me.
You're welcome. Hold on just one sec. I want to thank everybody for joining us on another episode of Divorcing Strong podcast. Becky Sampson, I've been your host with Chelsea Williams. And again, just as a reminder, make sure you go to any of the audio platforms. You can find us on any of those at Divorcing Strong. And also, if you need a download, right here is a free download with all of the legal terms when it comes to divorce. Seriously, the more you're educated, knowledge is power, but knowledge in action, understanding what's going on, is even more powerful. So thanks for joining us, and we'll see you on the next episode. Thanks for listening to the Divorcing Strong podcast. This episode is sponsored by Only Subpoenas, where we make subpoenas simple, powerful, and 100% compliant. If you're having a hard time getting the information you need to settle for a fair and equitable divorce, let us help you. Whether you're an attorney or you're navigating divorce on your own, subpoenas can uncover the truth, secure the evidence you need, and level the playing field. To see how we can help, book an appointment by visiting our website at onlysubpoenas.com.